venture deals, and the art of the start. They have no mention of games or the game industry. These are pure sort of tech finance startup books. But if you want to approach that side of financing, two really, really great. Super quick, I'll go through some, I don't know, some key kind of tips or lessons. One is, you're going to go through a lot of shit in order to get funding. Right, there's a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles, and this is part of the pot of gold myth. Right? It's like, oh, when I need the money, I'll go over there and I'll just go get it. And people don't realize how long it is, how hard it is, the amount of hustle, and for the person on the team that's doing the fundraising, which is usually the CEO or the team lead, it becomes their full-time job. Right, so if you're a team of just programmers, artists, designers, and like, oh, one of us will go get the pot of gold, like you're going to be completely overwhelmed and distracted by chasing investors and publishers and all this kind of stuff. So it's a long slog. Another notion is traction, the idea of traction. Right, part of the stages of funding, and even when you're dealing with publishers, no one wants to give you a check in sort of complete darkness, in a vacuum. Right? It's always easier, if you got money from your parents or your uncle and you made a prototype and then you got some CMF money and then you go see the early stage VC and you say, well, here's the other people who backed me and then I was, selected for Indicate or Mega Booth and I got this great, you're demonstrating social recognition or traction, that you're not just some punk with an idea for ninjas and robots and here, give me $1 million. They want to see that other people have validated what you're doing, and so this notion of traction is really quite critical. And there's many different ways you can show that, whether it's other people who have given you money or support, whether it's your sort of fan base and community, so the size of your community, the amount of Twitter followers, the degree of engagement in your forums, that counts as traction. Doing a Kickstarter and getting many backers is also a piece of traction, because as we all know, that also to some extent validates commercial potential of what you're doing. And so the notion of traction really does matter when you're talking to investors. Another is, I kind of use this notion of the target, right? So oftentimes we get pitches from developers who have the freedom and the commercial intent, and they're doing something cool, but the game has no financial sort of long-term probability of success. And the type of game that I always pick on is a local co-op game, local multiplayer game. Right? So we'll often get developers and they say, we want to build a business and we have all this vision and we have commercial intent, but we're just 3 people, so we're going to keep it small, and so we're making a local multiplayer, co-op game, and oh my god, when we go to PAX, everyone's cheering and having so much fun and all this kind of. But inherently, a local multiplayer game is limited market opportunity. Almost every local multiplayer game that's been released on Steam has sold under 5,000 or 10,000 copies, to the exception of Towerfall. There's a few, but it's quite rare. Obviously, if you add network code, well, now that becomes a bigger project and more complex, but it also increases your commercial potential. But if you're a developer and you're thinking about going to get funding, you have to think about, well, what's the actual commercial potential of what I'm doing? Even if I want to make money, doesn't mean it's actually going to make money. You have to do your homework. That's done through Steam Spy or App Annie to sort of do your competitive analysis, and a lot of developers don't do that. Right? They're thinking from a creative and production point of view, as opposed to the publisher has to hand you $1 million and think they're at least going to make 2, 3, 4, 5 times that money back, or an investor has to think they're going to make 10 times that money back. If the game you're proposing, at best, is going to kind of break even, because that's what 99% of those kinds of games do on Steam, that's not a very good sort of target to be shooting for. All right. All right. I think I'll have 2 more of these kind of insights. One is, investment tends to be, I think of it as a rally as opposed to a race. Right? And a rally meaning it's checkpoint, right? It's checkpoint to checkpoint or interval based. If you go back to the curve, usually what you're doing is you're taking the money that you got from your rich uncle or your mom to get you to the next checkpoint, right? To build the prototype that then allows you to seduce the angel investor. Then you take that money to get to the next checkpoint, which is to go then see real ventures or whatever early stage investor to convince them to give you the next chunk of money. Then you use that money to get to the next checkpoint, which is to launch your game and generate revenue, and then use that money to get to the next checkpoint, which is the larger stages. Or, so you're really doing it from checkpoint to checkpoint. It's super rare where you walk in and say, here's my awesome Ninja Robots game, give me $10 million. And you're like, wow, that's great, here's $10 million. Like, that just never happens. And even to like celebrity star successful developers, it still doesn't happen. Right? It's very incremental, it's very checkpoint to checkpoint. I would think of it as the gas tank, right? The funding you're getting is gas in the tank that gets you to the next checkpoint. So that's how you have to think about it. But also, in terms of what you're planning from a production point of view, the money you get from the uncle, is that enough money to get to the prototype that you need to convince the next person to give you money? Right? No one's going to give you money just to kind of go part way around the track and you don't get to the next checkpoint because then I've completely wasted my money. And so good investors will actually think and ask you, so who's the next person that's going to give you money and what do you need to get the money at that future point? And is the money I'm giving you now enough to get you to that next checkpoint? But that's something you need to be factoring in how you think about your question. All right, almost over. This one I won't spend too much time on, the notion of scaffolding. So part of building a company is actually thinking about what kind of company you're building and what types of games you're creating. As investors, we tend to want to see that you do have some sense of a roadmap, that you have some sense of a vision, so that the things that you do on game 1 enable you to do game 2 better, enable you to do game 3 faster. And so that you're not doing, a VR racing game, then an augmented reality mobile game, and then a console shooter game. It's completely different. The skills, the tools, the technologies you use are usually going to be completely different. So there's no kind of acceleration of knowledge, there's no acceleration of tools and pipeline to go from game 1 to 2 and 3. So we like to see when someone says, well, my vision and my specialty is to make, I don't know, well, I'm not going to say local multiplayer games, but whatever, like shooter games or something, strategy games, right? So the first game as our first game as a new studio, the strategy game is going to be relatively small, but it's going to be a fixed map and I don't know, whatever, because we're building the systems that then will allow us to make the second strategy game bigger, because now we've built the scaffolding that we can then add the next layer on top of. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the same universe, the same branding, or the same characters. I just mean in terms of technology, tools, design, know-how, vision matters. And so most investors that are investing in a company are going to look for that kind of stuff. And one of the trick questions that we had when we were interviewing teams is, what does game 3 look like? What does your third game look like? And if the developer of the studio wasn't able to answer, that told us that they were so focused just on this project and they had much more of a project mindset as opposed to a company or visionary mindset. And if they were able to say, oh, game 3, well look, game 1 is this, game 2 is going to be this, game 3 is going to be this, because this is the trajectory we want to go as a studio. Like, okay, now these people are thinking long-term as a business, building a studio, having vision, and they're building the scaffolding they need to kind of accelerate through that process. It was like 1 out of 10 people actually were able to answer that question. 9 times out of 10 it was, oh yeah, we haven't thought about the next one because we're so like heads down on this one. All right, well, this was like a funny animated GIF. I'll see if I can, yeah, there we go. All right, so hopefully that'll give you some insight, and then all the money will just, all the dollar bills will just rain on you. Thank you very much.